They told me for years there was no money in podcasting. Well, they were all wrong. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the nonsense to contend. I want to say contend, Christian. It is time for the nonsense to commence, to begin, to start, and whatever other syllable synonym I want to think of. This is the Talking with Tarashuk podcast, the unknown, unnamed nonsense edition. Or myself, Will Tarashuk, founder of Ambiguous Podcast Solutions, has a giant list of questions, and Christian, the man behind the board, has asked them, and we have fun answering them. So, Christian, how are you today? I'm stomaching through my intro, but that's okay. Fuck it, doesn't even matter.
How we doing? Ready for some unknown, unnamed nonsense once again?
Dude, it's been a wild few weeks. We haven't done this in a few weeks. Last time we did was with Nash. Shout out to Nash, my good friend Nash from Nashville, who did this last time with us. And I had a few interviews, pushing on a few weeks. You know, Sam went last week, and then this week it's gonna be us, and then a few more interviews scheduled, and we just kind of see how it goes. So, the idea is to push content out once a week, whether it's this the random list of questions where we just have fun and bullshit, or I interview people. So that's just kind of how it goes. But Christian, I started TikTok this week or last week.
Right, you were telling me
the week before.
And you've had some struggles, some
a little bit.
There was the learning curve.
There is definitely a learning curve to TikTok. I hate it. I hate it so much. I hate TikTok as much as all of you love watching it. All right, that's how much I hate it. But it's successful. I'm not gonna lie. So I told you. Remember that clip we did with the jar of grease from my grandma's fridge?
Right.
That one clip has gotten more views on TikTok than anything I posted on YouTube in the past 6 months combined.
And remind the people what the jar of grease thing was.
So the jar of grease was my grandmother has a jar of grease in her fridge that she's had in there since like the 60s. Still have no idea what she does with it. Still have no idea why it's there, or if she puts new grease in there. But it's there. And people just couldn't get enough of it.
And you stand by that you weren't putting this grease in your grandmother's hair.
I 1,000% stand by that. I would never put that in anybody's hair. Although someone on TikTok said I should eat it and see what happens. And I said I'd get some superpowers. I'd get back to him. So, whoever that one dude was, I haven't done it yet. But we'll see. Christian, we are here in Long Killer, New Jersey. We're going to be live with this eventually once we end up just, buying the package. We just got to put our money where our mouth is and start doing it, and then find a time every week we can go live. But until that happens, hit me with the first question.
First question. Speaking of TikTok, how do you consume content?
Oh, that's the number one question. That is the number one question I put on this list for an exact reason because it's the first one I thought of. So how do you consume content? And the answer is very simple. Differently. Everyone consumes content differently.
And then what is content? There's all types of content, different formats. There's news. There's news is content.
Mm-hmm.
There's social media channels, ones that you choose. There's reading. Some people read newspapers. Some people read the Wall Street Journal digitally. A lot of different ways to. There's apps out there that curate reading for you and give you short summaries, which is something I've been on. So. It's it's a lot of different kinds of content.
I didn't think of that. I was thinking more of in the digital space, social media. But you're right. No, I know Jared definitely told you how many people still buy the phone book and still use the phone book.
I didn't realize that phone books still exist.
Oh no, they still very much exist. Apparently they're big in the South, but like up here in the Northeast, I haven't seen a phone book. My dad still has his because he doesn't throw anything else. My dad's a hoarder. But I haven't seen like an up-to-date phone book ever in the past probably decade or so. So I have no idea. But people, again, I guess, is the phone book content? The phone book can be considered content.
Off subject. Do you remember the time before they added area codes to phone numbers? I remember.
No.
You don't remember?
So like the area code for my hometown was 781. So all the phone numbers started with 781.
No, when I was younger, I distinctly remember not having to type the area code when calling people.
Really? I don't.
And this is when there were phone books, which makes me. That's what triggered the memory.
We're the same age.
Yeah, but maybe you just don't remember. I remember. I mean, that's something we could look up on Google.
Oh yeah, Google it when they implemented area codes. This has nothing to do with content. We'll go back to that question.
And it might be geographically specific.
Maybe it might be. So yeah, Google that. Let's show your screen so we can see that.
When did area codes start?
What we got, Christian? I still see me.
I want to look it up first. When did area code start? It says 1951, but let's say I don't know. Maybe it's a
Jersey?
false memory because the internet's saying otherwise.
No, 97.
See,
There you
I
go.
knew I remembered.
Oh,
I don't know why I remember that because I was only 3 years old. Only 3 years old.
How about
at the time.
Massachusetts? How about Massachusetts? That's where your boy's from.
Oh, you're from Mass?
I grew up in Massachusetts.
Okay.
Yeah, not new Massachusetts. You gotta go to Massachusetts. You gotta get rid of the new too.
Yeah, I was trying to fix the window.
As opposed to old Massachusetts, the colonial Massachusetts.
19.
Yeah. Okay. 47. Okay. So yeah, I definitely don't remember that because I was dead then.
You were dead.
I was dead. I was not alive, so I was dead.
Dead implies at one time having life.
I guess so. No, that's a bit I'm saying from another.
Dead.
That's a bit I'm saying from another podcast. He says before you were alive, you were dead. So it's like, oh, this was before you were born. You were dead then.
I mean, it's an argument to be made. Dead is the absence of existence, is it not?
I guess so. It says before you were alive, what were you?
Just didn't exist.
I guess you were dead. You were dead and then brought back to life.
Dead implies that like the existence and everything that is you is no longer, but implies that you once were.
I don't know, man. My future kids right now are dead because they haven't been born yet, and then they die again.
He's like, you just keep dying.
You just keep dying, dude. Life's a cycle. It's just life and death, life and death, life and death.
Except it starts with death.
It starts with death. But to be dead, it implies life. I don't know if you could.
I think it's a stretch to start with death, but you can say that you could potentially argue that you're dead.
It's like the chicken and the egg argument. Which came first? Well, which came first, life or death?
Yeah.
I don't know. You tell me, homeboy.
I'm definitely gonna say that dead and death implies living.
I mean, I suppose, but so what were you before you were alive?
You just didn't exist.
Yeah, well, all right. I guess so. But okay, how about this one? It's like, what was I before I was alive? Well, I was sperm in my dad's nutsack, right?
And then before that.
But what was I before he was born?
Just didn't exist.
I can't be sperm in my grandfather's. You know what I mean?
I can't give you a different answer on this.
What were you before you were alive? If you're not dead.
Just didn't exist.
Man. You didn't exist. All right, but that's gotta be called something. You gotta be. Are you in limbo? Are you in Rush Limbaugh? Where are you?
Are you in Rush Limbaugh?
Are you in Rush Limbo?
Rush Limbo.
Dude, I'm in a rush to get back to limbo. Let me tell you something.
All right, so
no, that's a good question. Let's go back to the original question.
Original question is content.
Ask the question again so we can throw up a lower third properly this time.
Okay, so
without sidebarring.
All right, so let's. How do you consume content?
All right, so I'm glad you asked this question. It's the first one I put on the list for a reason. So the answer is differently. If you listen to the audio version, congratulations, you gotta get this twice now. The answer is differently, and because that goes back to my philosophy on podcasting, where everything needs to be everywhere always. Now, I fought back against TikTok, posting content to TikTok for multiple reasons. Because one, I really don't have the time to do all this, but I do it anyway. I just find the time. I don't sleep. I don't eat. I just do it. But that's where the people are. I don't consume content on TikTok, but people do. So people consume content differently. Now, how do I personally consume content? Most of my content consumption is due via podcasts or on YouTube. I watch way too much YouTube just to keep in line with what the hell is going on. Like, all my news I get from YouTube, pretty much. From reliable sources that aren't mainstream.
Well, that's fair.
Or aren't corporate, I should say.
When you say YouTube, some people might think like just some random conspiracy guy. But they're reliable. I mean, every platform out. You have YouTube TV, for God's sakes.
Yeah. Some people have YouTube TV for cable. Like, I don't have cable. I've had cable since I was in high school. Right now, I got Hulu cable. I got my parents' Hulu.
Oh,
cable.
The Hulu Plus, man, it's the same. I was debating that. It's the same price as cable.
I'm not gonna lie, dude, but they give
are you really saving something?
They give you Disney Plus and ESPN Plus in the bundle for like $75.
Are you really? Are you that hype over Disney Plus,
dude? Have you seen Obi-Wan? It's amazing.
He's like, they give you Disney Plus.
They give you Disney Plus, dude. It's a great bundle. It's a great bundle. But right, like even for wrestling, how do wrestling fans, like I'm a big wrestling fan, how do they consume content differently? My buddy Ricky watches it live. I would rather shoot myself in the face with a musket than watch wrestling live because there's commercials. That's how much I hate commercials. And 3 hours
Right.
of Raw, hell no. I watch it on Hulu. I watch Hulu Raw. It's cut down in 90 minutes. But how I consume podcasts on Stitcher. And people go, "What's Stitcher?" I go, "Oh, you must have an Apple phone because Stitcher is primarily on Android." So that's how I listen to my podcast. Unless you're Joe Rogan, and watch it on Spotify. So if someone's gonna have a podcast, like you need to put your content everywhere, or even some reading, right? Like news articles. Like I said like 10 years ago, maybe not 10 years ago, maybe it was 10 years ago in college, that the New York Times should have behind their paywall, like you got the article, right? The written article, but there should be above, like underneath the byline and the headline and the subheadline, there should be an audio file with a play button where it's just the author or a voice actor reading the article to you, because more people would buy it to listen to it. More people would listen to it while reading it to understand what's going on in the article. And what do you know? 10 years later, not the New York Times per se, but other news sites out there do have that feature, not behind a paywall. So I guess I'm half right.
Yeah. I mean, kind of related. There's sometimes books I want to read, but I don't have the time to sit down and look at the pages and read them myself. So I'm looking for an audiobook. Sometimes the audiobook doesn't exist because it might be a book that's a little bit older, like say a book from the mid 1990s. And what I tried to do, kind of backfired, is I found an app that says it'll turn any book into an audiobook.
Yeah, right.
$5.
Yeah,
so I buy it on a whim, not even thinking. So I get it. And this thing is like Siri reading to you. It's like, "My name is Christian and I am here with Will and I am reading a story to you." And I can't deal with it for more than 10 minutes at a time because it's an automated voice. I mean, and it doesn't have, it's not a human, so it can't distinguish because it has some illustrations in it, like referring to pictures of things.
Yeah.
And it'll be like figure 8 1 like, and it can't distinguish it. So it's a nightmare. Worst $5 I ever spent.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
But again, related to what you just said, some people want to read it and hear it. And in my case, if I'm driving, I want to hear it.
Yeah.
Just want to hear it.
I can't do audiobooks. For the most part, I struggle because my mind drifts and I'm just gone. I'm lost. And it's just like, oh shit, I'm supposed to be listening to like this book on the Native Americans, right? And it's just like, oh, gotta go back. But to listen to it and read it, that's probably the best way to consume at least books. Because I got this is how old I am. I had a Walkman, and I went to the library. That's how old I am. People went to the library back then, and I got the Lord of the Rings
library
audiobooks.
cards.
Library. I still don't have my library card anymore, but I should probably get one. But I went.
Yeah, you could just take so many books out and never return them. I've come back to when I was younger. We come back to I got this book when I was 5. It has illustrations. It's and you bring it back when you're like 11, and they're like, yeah, you owe $50 for having these books for 6 years.
It's like, no, I don't. No, I don't. You're publicly funded. Fuck you. But anyway, I got the audiobooks on disc for Lord of the Rings because I was like, in like 6th grade or 5th grade. I just didn't have the reading level to fucking understand the book. So I was on a car trip, and I'd have the book as well as a tape and read it along with the tape and actually understand what's going on. And that's because we can Google this, but it's like the more of your senses you use when trying to learn something, the more likely you are to remember it. So if you're listening to something while reading it using a sense of hearing and your sense of sight, so you're more likely to remember it for like a test or something.
Absolutely.
And it just makes sense. And if you're touching the book, you're like, oh, this book just feels like the word the. Right? Like,
absolutely.
Like, oh my God, photosynthesis with my fingers. I'm going to ace this science test. Then you get a D.
You have made this so erotic. The
yeah.
process of reading and listening.
Yeah,
at the
dude.
same
Well,
time.
hey, how do you consume content
he's saying
erotically?
I'm being stimulated.
Like, you can't see the table in my shop, but I'm touching a table. I promise.
It's like, no, we're not talking about erotic novels. We're just talking about reading the newspaper or reading a story.
Reading some fake news, New York Times.
Right.
All right, Christian. I think we're good there. What's next question?
Next question.
That was a good one. I had fun with that.
Yeah, so let's bold that one. All right, so here we go here. What's the future of Facebook? That's an interesting one. Because it just seems like Facebook's always doing something new. So
Okay, so
buying WhatsApp, buying Instagram, Meta.
you know how we just had that whole conversation of what are you before you were alive?
Yeah.
So Facebook is just going to become a wasteland of people who are no longer alive and bots. The future of Facebook is it's going to be a massive graveyard.
You know what? You're right.
Like how many?
That is like, and the thing is, you hear about, sometimes people dying young and people going on their Facebooks and writing things.
Yeah.
It's creepy.
It's weird.
I mean, I get the sentiment behind it, but you're right.
Like how many dead people do you know on
we
Facebook?
should look up how. We should look that up. We should first.
Google that.
We should first look up how many Facebook users. Period.
It's a few billion, which includes.
There might be more. This is a reach. I don't know this. Don't quote me on this. There might be close. There might be more Facebook users than, because people have, some people have multiple accounts.
One day there will be. Yeah,
right.
If you're including bots, business accounts, like active users.
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess. Okay, this is the first guess game. We're gonna guess. I'm gonna guess 2 billion.
2 billion.
2 billion. Whether active, inactive, have been created accounts, I'm gonna guess 2 billion total accounts.
I'm gonna double that. I'm gonna say 4.
You gonna say 4?
I'm gonna say 4.
There's like 8 billion people in the world, so that's like half the world is on Facebook, which honestly might be true.
How many Facebook users? 2.93 billion.
Oh, your boy is right here.
2.93 billion.
2.93 billion. Now, Google, how many of those are dead? How many Facebook users are dead? Are dead people?
30 million
30
estimated.
Million estimated.
What are they looking through mortuary? How do they know this? I mean,
usually someone posts when they die and they tag them, right? Like, honestly, I came with this question going through my Facebook friends list, and I was like, oh shit, this person's dead, this person's dead, this person's dead, and they're all my age or would be my age right now.
That's dark.
And then there's like, but what's the future of Facebook? It's just gonna be dead people talking to each other. It's gonna be people posting on behalf of dead people.
Oh, you think they're in, like, the alive are in their accounts?
I mean, some people do that, which I get. So like the anniversary of this kid I knew in high school, was just like 2 weeks ago. It's actually like my dad's birthday, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I think like people still tag him in things like "Happy Birthday" or "We miss you," or sometimes his mom will go in and post something on that account, just saying like, "Hey, it was supposed to be my birthday today," something just really sad like that. But like, yeah, when people die, here's another good question: when I die, who owns my Facebook account?
I mean, it would. That's when you say, "Did you read the terms and conditions?" That's
a great question. That's a great question.
Did you read the terms and conditions?
It's like,
because we already know that Facebook owns it.
Yeah, Facebook owns it.
We know that.
Yeah, like when I die, what happens to everything on my account? Can I put it in my will? This goes to my next of kin. This goes to my dead kids who aren't born yet.
That actually opens another question. Completely random. Could something you wrote on your Facebook be considered a will? No,
I don't think so, because a will needs to be written out.
No, because you have those napkin wills. Well, a will written on a napkin. There's a word for it. I studied it at one point.
I think it needs to go through some sort of legal process though, to actually write a will. Like my parents wrote up their I guess it's their wills. It's like it's their inheritance. Like me and my brother each get 50-50 because like they're in their 60s, but something could happen tomorrow. But they had to go through like their lawyer and their counsel, and I had to sign official paperwork to make it like actually legally binding.
Mm-hmm.
So that napkin thing might be bullshit, as would a Facebook post, especially if Facebook owns it. Yeah, the future of Facebook. Yeah, that's the answer I'm going with. It's just gonna be a bunch of dead people. Because Facebook in itself is losing popularity, at least in the States.
It's very big internationally,
But
especially because of WhatsApp.
Especially
That
because of
definitely
WhatsApp.
brought them back on the map. Like, I wouldn't say back on the map, but a big surge.
But do you know how hard it is to delete your Facebook profile completely from the internet?
I'd imagine they. You ever have those the subscriptions where you can't unsubscribe unless
Yes.
you email?
Yes.
And it's like, why do I have to jump through this many hoops when I'm paying you money?
Facebook's worse. It's next to impossible to completely delete your entire account. So even if you delete it, it's still there to be reactivated. This kind of goes to sleep. But it's still there. So Facebook considers those active users. So really, the future of Facebook is going to be more dead people / bots than alive people actually using it. And that's probably in the next 30 to 50 years.
I agree.
So it's wild. Fuck you, Facebook.
So
like us on Facebook, by the way, APS Podcast and Talking with Tarashuk.
While we're alive.
Yeah, while we're alive. While you still can. And have your dead kids who aren't born yet like it too.
Oh, man. Not shy against controversy on that one.
Okay. I said your dead kids who aren't alive yet, not your dead kids who have already lived.
Right.
That's inappropriate.
I know it's.
I'm wagging my finger at you, Christian. That's inappropriate.
Oh man, I'm trying to throw you under the bus a little bit.
Man, I'm in a mood today. All right, it's gonna be a weird show. Next question.
Yeah. I thought we were gonna be rusty, but I think we're pretty on point. This has been interesting so far. Which American accent is the sexiest?
You're just running down the list right now, aren't you? In order.
No. I skipped 2.
What number question is this?
This is number 5.
And what number was the Facebook one?
Number 3.
So you got 1, 3, and 5. You're just going down the list here. So
1, 3, and 5.
All right, 5. What was the question? Sexiest accent?
Which American accent is the sexiest? And we have to rank them.
We have to rank them.
Rank them. I mean, I'm not a fan of the ranking. I can just point out, like, through my experience, what I think. And are we talking? Is this like gender specific?
It can be. Yes. So I guess it depends what you define as sexy. Like, for example, a southern accent on a lady is much different than a southern accent on a Nash.
Because I think
actually,
some girls like a southern accent.
I mean,
I'm not talking like
subjective.
I'm not talking about like Farmer John, like, you know, I mean, like Nashville.
Yeah, so I actually
like a country artist with little swagger.
I asked easy for me to say this question to my my friends from Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, there's a difference between the southern accent is the twang, and I forget what the other one. I forget the other. They did the different type of southern accent. The twang is kind of like the stereotypical, like, well, hey there, how you doing? That kind of thing. I'm not really good at accents, but
I am.
So, like, accents, you got the southern accent, the twang in the other one. You got the Boston accent, which actually, the inspiration for this question, like a few years ago, a poll came out and they said the Boston accent was the sexiest one in the nation, which I said.
Really?
And I said, you haven't been to Boston, because that's wrong. I am from Boston.
Really?
There is nothing more unattractive than an overweight person with a Boston accent.
Overweight.
Nothing more unattractive. And I have a Boston accent. It's still there.
It's slight.
It's
I mean,
better.
I could hear it.
It comes out with certain words, and when I'm drunk, that's when it really comes out. Or if I'm really excited. So you got the Boston accent. You got the New York, Brooklyn accent.
My accent is I don't get Boston when I'm drunk. I get something else.
You got the West Coast accent.
West Coast.
You got the Southern.
And the thing is, the West Coast, it does have a Southern twang to it. Sometimes, like real hard pronunciation on the ER.
You do not want to catch them saying the N-word, boy.
What's that?
You do not want to catch them saying the N-word. It's really
not even that.
It's a really hard R.
Not even that.
According to Christian, it's a hard R.
Nah, what I'm saying is, like, are you trying to go to the store? Like the store? It's like almost Canadian.
Okay. Oh, okay. That's another one. So
Minnesota, like the supermarket, like, you know, like
Minnesota, North Dakota, that area of the country is like the Canadian accent, like the Canucks or whatever. Chicago in the Midwest kind of has an accent.
What is a Chicago accent?
You gotta hear it.
I've never really got that. What is Chicago? We got to answer the question though. We're going off on tangents.
No, we're listing the categories.
Okay.
So for me,
you got Chicago, you got Brooklyn, you got
I'll put Brooklyn at the bottom. All right, you people speak like you're in dumpsters.
But the thing is, you also have there's like because New York is its own category. Like I would say Brooklyn, Long Island, and Staten Island all sound a little bit different, slightly.
But it's the same genre of accent. Though.
Yes,
right.
Yes,
It's like
absolutely.
you can get specific as you want. Like there's a difference between like a Boston accent and a Western Massachusetts accent, sure. But for me, number one, sexiest Hawaiian.
Hawaiian. I mean, we did say American accents.
Hawaii is a state.
Oh, that was stupid. I gotta cut that out the video.
No, that's staying in.
Yeah. I guess I meant the mainland.
Okay, so continental. So
I mean, because technically Puerto Rico, you could count Puerto Rico too.
Yeah, you can count Puerto Rican.
You know,
you can count Puerto Rico. It's a territory. It's
but like,
part of the. It's not a
most
state,
people in
but
Puerto
it's part
Rico
of the US.
they speak Spanish, so we're talking about English speaking.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go Hawaii. Then I'll go like a sassy Southern belle, on a pretty lady. That nice, like a nice intellectual Southern accent. That's not an oxymoron, I promise. It exists.
No, I know what you mean.
The New York accent and the Minnesota. What are you talking about? It just annoys me.
What about the like the 1930s gangster accent?
See? Al Capone, see?
See?
On my newsy stand. Come on, on a newsy stand.
One more move and the lady gets it. Or like all the old the like the accent on like old black and white TV. You know, I don't know how to really characterize it.
I know what you mean. I don't even know how to characterize.
It's like how everybody talked like this. Listen to me, dear.
Now, let me tell you something, sweetie.
I'm
Get me a coffee and a cigarette. Give it a little pat and a tush.
That's exactly how it was in those times.
Get the Italian gangster accent.
But I will distinguish that from the saying to like he's like, you know what? I'll tell you what. This is what we're gonna do. It all sounds like this. It's all like that type of thing.
Mm-hmm. You got the Dave Chappelle's white voice, which is the
sir. You can't smoke in here, sir.
Dave Chappelle's white voice is better than my white voice.
It's hilarious.
It's better than my white voice.
He's Chip, his white friend Chip.
Yeah. Those teenagers over there look really scary. But what confuses me about accents,
that's because Dave Chappelle's his white voice is like an exaggerated news reporter.
Yeah,
he's like that guy's he's a goddamn pile driver.
Get it together, Grouch.
We're gonna have to send the Rock to arrest him.
But how do accents form?
It's very geographical.
But why? Like why does everyone from Ireland sound like they're from Ireland, whereas Irish people
it's
in
because
Boston
it's
don't
because
sound like that.
Well, it's because I guess people from Ireland, what is it derived from? What, like Gaelic?
I get it. Yeah, it's their language.
So like it's whatever the native language is, and then, but you can't say that for all cases. It's like why is there a Brooklyn accent?
Exactly. Like okay,
and it's like and we say Brooklyn accent like Italian people like the dogs was barking in the coffee and like, but that has nothing to do with speaking Italian.
Yeah,
so I can't blanket across blanket across the board say it's from language of origin.
It doesn't make sense. Why do British people sound like this, but California people sound like that? And it's like if someone moves from the U.S. to
Well, British people are consistent. They've been speaking the Queen's English.
Fair, but like, how do accents actually form? Like, if I moved to California, eventually I would kind of develop a California accent. Or like New York, I kind of pick up a little bit of a New York accent. Or at the very least, I am losing my Boston accent. It's not as bad as it used to be, for sure. Listen to my original podcast, Kings of Rings podcast from like 2018. All right, you'll hear it. It's there compared to what I sound like now. Like, how do accents just form? Well, if you go to Florida, like if I moved to Florida, had a kid in Florida, that kid would have a Floridian accent. Why?
What is a Floridian accent?
Southern.
Depends on where you live.
Yeah.
I mean, my aunt's lived in Florida for 30 years. She sounds the same. I mean, but to be fair, she's from the East Coast. So maybe you get, because they do say you get to a certain age and the way you talk is ingrained.
Yeah, well, that could be just childhood. So that actually, you know what? That makes sense. So it would be childhood development, right? When you were developing a language, you would just mimic what you're hearing around you. So that would be the accent, right?
Yeah.
So when the settlers came over from England to the U.S. and then they moved to the South, where did that accent come from?
Honestly, I'm kind of thinking this on like a socio-economic level. I think a lot of the accents, they come from the streets, like the lower class, the ghetto, so to speak. Um,
like a way to be different, I guess.
It derives from it derives from slang and urban neighborhoods, and then with, this is a big one, probably didn't think about this, but with pop culture, because then it becomes popularized in pop culture. Like hip hop's a huge example. There's a lot of people that wouldn't speak the way they speak if it wasn't for hip hop.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, 100%.
So
all food for thought.
But I don't really have. I never even thought about it.
You still got to answer the question.
I never thought about like a sexy American accent. I don't know. I guess Southern. Probably maybe Southern. Because it's like the accents that I'm concerned about, they're not American ones. I'd be like, oh, like dating a French girl.
Ugh.
Like her accent.
I don't like the French
or a
accent.
British girl.
I don't like the British accent either.
No?
No, dude.
It sounds pretentious to you?
No, it's just no. Okay, it's gonna sound terrible, but specific. Let's say, like a British accent on a dude doesn't sound that bad, right? I could say like like when Tom Holland speaks, like okay, that's a sexy accent, sure, but like Keira Knightley.
Oh no, I love when Keira Knightley speaks.
No, it's just, it's too deep. I don't like it's a.
You think it's a deep like it, you gotta like
like British accents on women. It's just like you kind of sound like men. To me,
I feel as a
to me that is a turn off.
As a half Puerto Rican person who speaks Spanish from time to time, I feel like my voice gets deeper in Spanish.
Speaking Spanish.
Like I like, and it could be because of how in mainstream media the way Spanish people speak. It's more of a stereo because I'm not a native Spanish speaker. And I'm not completely fluent either. So
I find native Italian, anything Latin.
I mean, because there are certain accents like a Russian. Oh yeah, we didn't talk about Russian accents.
Well, that's not American.
Yeah,
it's a question specifically in the U.S.
That's true.
Russian accents are very aggressive. German accents are very aggressive.
Like the way the language is spoken.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like Polish, very aggressive. That whole Eastern Europe, it's a very aggressive language because they're hardened people because they live in the freezing cold and most of them are poor. So that makes sense.
Okay.
Sorry, Eastern Europe. You're my people too. I love you. Next question.
Yeah, tell him you're Polish. So he's like, I could do that.
Yeah, I am Polish.
I could say these things.
Yeah. You know my joke about Polish food, right? Why don't I like Polish food?
Why don't you like Polish food?
It tastes like poverty.
It tastes like poverty. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's a keeper.
That's
mark the audio.
That's a you joke.
Yeah, dude. Hey, half of my body is Eastern Europe. All right, I know what it's like. I was also raised with the Italian half, so I know good food. Sorry.
Polish and Italian. All right, I'm trying to find a good one for this next question.
Let me see what we got. How about number 69?
You would. Why do Why do people love Shrek? That's so random. I don't even know why that's on here. What is that? Like, you must have an opinion on this for you to even. That is the most obscure question of random, like in the world of random questions.
It's unknown, unnamed nonsense. Damn it! It's just it's just an utterly nonsensical question, but it's a great question. Why do people love Shrek? And I think it's because of the accent.
What kind of accent is it?
It's Mike Myers. It's Mike. Okay, so
it's Mike. It's Mike Myers.
It's Mike Myers' own accent. He has his one to himself. No. So here's how this question came about. I watched this video on YouTube.
Says donkey. Like, what is that? It does sound a little bit
Scottish.
It sounds Scottish.
So here's the backstory. So I was watching a video on YouTube because I consume content differently. Remember that?
Right.
It was about how Shrek almost didn't become Shrek, or how Shrek was almost insanely different, because it was originally pitched in the early 90s, and Chris Farley was going to be the voice of Shrek.
No way.
But then Chris Farley went back to it before he was born and died. So they couldn't do that anymore. So they got Mike Myers, and Mike Myers recorded the whole movie, and then was like, you know what? I think it would be better if I did it with a Scottish accent. So they did a test. They agreed, and they re-recorded all of his lines for the entire movie in that accent. And then now what we know is Shrek today is Shrek today. But why do people love Shrek?
Sounds like you love Shrek too. You know all that background.
First off, do you not love Shrek?
I wouldn't say I love Shrek.
What the fuck's wrong with you?
I wouldn't say I love Shrek.
When's the last time?
Like, you know what I want to do? I want to watch Shrek 7.
When's the last time? Okay, let me also clarify. There's reason I didn't put Shrek 1 through 4. I just put Shrek as in the first Shrek. Because all the other Shreks...
I thought you meant the character Shrek.
Oh, I meant the movie. Okay, that's how you interpret it. I interpret it as the movie Shrek.
Okay.
Specifically, the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
But people like the second movie, and the rest are awful. But people love Shrek. I don't get it.
It can't be just because of the accent.
No, that's just me being silly. That's just me tying in all the other questions into this one question. But the first movie is amazing. All right, the first movie is, you can't get the Marvel Cinematic Universe without Shrek.
What?
Do I need to explain?
Marvel.
Yeah. So the Marvel Cinematic Universe, last Spider-Man had Spider-Man, Doc Ock, Green Goblin.
You're like, so you're watching a Marvel movie. You're like, yo, this is paying homage to Shrek.
No, I'm saying it couldn't exist. I'm saying it couldn't exist without the success of Shrek, because Shrek had all these different fairy tale stories combined into one story. You got the fairy godmother. You got Prince Charming. You got the 3 little pigs. You got the big bad wolves. You got the gingerbread man. You got Lord Fuckwad. All right, all that. Man, that's cinematic universe.
They really snuck that in there.
They snuck that in there.
The Farquaad, they really snuck.
Yeah, Lord Fuckwad.
They really
amazing.
snuck that in there. What?
Welcome to Do Love. It's the perfect town. We see have some rules. Let us lay them down. You know the song.
I don't know the song. How many times have you watched Shrek?
Dude, I'm gonna go home and watch Shrek tonight. I don't know what platform it's on. I'm gonna find it. Shrek is the best. Shrek is the fucking best, and it needs to be answered why people love him. Because I love Shrek.
Well, why you gotta look? That's where you gotta start. Why do you love Shrek?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Sounds like it brings you a lot of joy.
It does. Shrek brings me so much joy. It's hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious. But to be honest, there are 1,000 movies way better than Shrek that I do not like as much as I love Shrek.
Okay.
Yeah. People love the second one, but it's just bad.
I can't say. The only explanation there's no other explanation I could have than it's just a good, funny kids movie that also adults can watch and also find humorous because of the hidden subtext at times.
Also, it was the perfect movie for 2001. It was released in 2001.
That's when it came out, 2001?
2001. Look up the actual release date, because if it was after 9/11, I have some bold statements to make.
Let's go to Google.
When was the release date for Shrek?
Let's go to Google. It says 2001.
But does it say an actual date?
Let's see. Let's go to
2000 Shrek release date.
Do we have the release date? Usually it has it. Doesn't have it. All right. So let's just look it up. Shrek. April. So
April?
before.
Okay, pre 9/11.
Before.
Oh my. Okay. Okay. Shrek the musical was. Okay. Okay. Wow. Okay. So wow. Here's what I just googled. Oh, that's okay. 2008. Ooh. Thank God. Never mind. False alarm. So it's April. So April 2001.
Yep. April 22nd.
Yeah. So literally, it kicked off the summer movie season, even though it was springtime, with this a perfect banger with the theme song brought to you by Smash Mouth.
That was also a big reason. That song.
You had All Star.
Like a lot of people associate that song with that
Shrek.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the perfect song. It's just the whole movie is perfect. The dynamic between Shrek and Donkey is perfect. It is such a good movie.
It's like a this is gonna sound crazy. To me, it's like Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan.
Yes. That's crazy, but yes, I know exactly what you
except
mean.
it's Mike Myers and Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, and one of them's a donkey. And one of them's an ogre. Like, it's so quotable. It's so relatable. The beauty's on the inside, Christian. It's on the inside.
Making waffles.
Making waffles. It's so quotable. And don't get me wrong, they put a whole scene from that movie in I Am Legend. They had Will Smith, word for word, verbatim, go, hey, I got an idea. I can live with you. And he goes, he loves Shrek in that movie. So post-apocalypse, they could have put on any movie. But no. They put on Shrek.
Oh my God. The dog loves Shrek. I mean, and essentially
No, the kid loves Shrek.
in that movie though, you know, the dog is Donkey, Will Smith is Shrek. It's them against the world.
Them against the world. Them against the world. Yeah, there's so many similarities between I Am Legend and Shrek. And then I think it's the grand finale. I watched this movie all the time as a kid. All the time. And literally, dude, picture like, 2001. So it's probably released to VHS 2002. I was 7. Picture 8-year-old me at the end of the movie where they sing a dance to the music. I was in my living room going like this, doing the monkey, dance around like a fucking little maniac, 8 years old, to that song.
I'm about to say, this is like an integral part of your childhood.
It is a cornerstone of my childhood. That and Titanic. Those two movies are the cornerstone of my childhood.
Titanic?
Yeah.
Why Titanic?
That's a question for, you know what, I'll add it to the list. Why does Will love Titanic?
Because we did have a question. What do you think? I think is one of the best movies ever, and I believe you mentioned Titanic.
Yeah, that was me and Sam talked about our top 5 favorite movies. And number 1's always Titanic. Shrek. Next time someone asks me, Shrek might make the top 5. I'm not gonna lie.
Top 5.
But Shrek in and of itself is a cultural phenomenon. So Google that. Why do people love Shrek and see what comes up? We've been talking about Shrek for like 15 minutes almost.
You've been talking about Shrek.
Get in the conversation, man. Shrek's a great character.
I don't have anything to say, man. I've probably seen that movie. You're gonna be like, wow. You've only seen that probably 3 times. All right.
Dude, Puss in Boots got his own movie. All
Yeah,
right.
Puss in Boots. He was dope.
That Antonio Banderas. That is how deep the Shrek universe goes.
I mean, they did kind of an ensemble cast.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
The movie's perfect. The movie's absolutely incredible.
All right, here we go. Why is the internet
obsessed with Shrek? Yeah, The Atlantic. Let's see what they got.
Let's see if we can get a quick.
Look at that face. Give her that ad. Give her that drop down. Look at him. Look at him. Ah! Donker. Yeah. Look at him. Donker. What we got here? The internet is full of inexplicable trends, in-jokes, and parody concepts that should be, what does that say? In the Christian screen's big on you. You read it. It's big on your
impenetrable.
Impenetrable
to many casual browser. There are useful sites that seek to explain the genesis and popularity of these ridiculous and impenetrable memes, but they are informational more than anything. I can't read this whole thing. Let's see.
No. Let's get to the good parts.
Let's
Look
see
at
if
this
we can
meme.
find.
Listen, you're going into Shrek's mouth a bunch. It's great. Oh. People in audio are really confused.
It says the Shrek franchise. Let's get a little zoom here. 110, you say. Represents everything that was initially exciting and then quickly patronizing about the early 2000s.
That's so true.
It's symbolic of so many things we briefly loved before quickly realizing their emptiness.
Dude, when they sing Hallelujah in that movie, Hallelujah.
Oh, people! Did you know about the Brogers? You're definitely a Broger.
What is a Broger?
It's like a bro with like an ogre.
Nah, dude, I'm not an ogre. Don't call me an ogre.
Some Shrek fans call themselves Brogers.
Nah, I'm not a Broger. I'm not okay. I don't love Shrek that much, please.
Yeah, there's too much here to get to the bottom of this.
All right, so why do people love Shrek? He's fucking awesome. That's why. It's a great question. Next question.
All right. Oh man, you had a lot of questions here. Okay. Who do you hate more, the press or politicians?
Man, that is a deep question. That is a deep question because both are so well deserving of hate.
Oh, I mean, with the invention of left wing and right wing media,
Yeah.
they're just as bad.
So politicians, let's set the scene here. Politicians are supposed to love Shrek. No, I'm just kidding. Politicians are supposed to be elected by the people to act in the best interests of the people. And politicians, historically, don't do that. Like, ever. They act in the best interests of themselves or their party. So that is to be expected of them. But there are checks and balances within politicians. Like, the president can check the Congress, and Congress can check the president. They don't really do that either. So who checks them when they're not being checked? It's supposed to be the free press. And the free press just doesn't do that. Like, at all. They, in my opinion, they really just don't check the politicians
I
that
would
much.
say news in the media has no longer, you know how in Ron, what is it, Anchorman?
Yeah.
When the news made the switch, it's not really real. And I'm not saying across the board, but oftentimes not real journalism.
Yeah.
You still have journalists that write things up in the Washington Post or the New York Times that do investigative things, and they come after people and they call them on their shit. But we're kind of talking about news media here.
Yeah. So let me. Okay, that's a good point. Let me clarify. There are a lot of really good journalists out there who will do months and months of investigative, actual, real journalism, and nobody cares. One of the best I've seen on YouTube, completely independent voice, is Jordan Sheridan in Status Quo News. They get bombarded and suppressed by the YouTube algorithm. But when I say press, I really mean corporate press, like people you see on TV.
Right.
For the most part, they, in my opinion, do not push back on politicians for most things.
Well, let me ask you this. I feel like, and there's a natural bias.
Like, they're supposed to hold politicians accountable, especially if they cover that kind of journalism. And we live in a society where they really don't do that. They push polarization, they push division, and in certain aspects, they'll take talking points from the Pentagon and don't push back against that either.
Well, I was gonna say, I think personally, and I'm a pretty objective person. I always play devil's advocate,
as you should.
I feel like, and this is a controversial opinion, I think right-wing media is way more extreme. I think it's always tearing down if it's not a Republican. Instead of just telling the story with an agenda, I think right-wing media is, like Fox, way worse. I think I've seen examples on Fox News where they bring the most unqualified person on, but he's a Democrat.
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah,
mean, like
they
a
do
guy
that.
who
They
doesn't
do
know, like,
Yeah.
he doesn't know, like, anything. I mean, it's completely unqualified, but he's a Democrat. And they'll be like, Democrat says, and they'll be like, this guy, like, they'll bring an idiot. Because, I mean, there's idiots on both sides. They'll bring an idiot on, ask him questions, he'll give bad answers, and then half the time interrupt and be rude to the guest that they brought on. And then once in a while, they'll bring, like, let's say Obama's chief economist on or something, and he'll fight back and kind of like, yeah, you're not going to do that to me. But I find that right-wing media is a lot more extreme in terms of not just giving the information. Don't get me wrong, CNN is definitely left, but I don't think they're as aggressive.
They like to suppress information.
CNN.
Yes. Or they like to label things misinformation that isn't misinformation. Like, masks. Or, the lab leak theory. Or, Joe Rogan took ivermectin as a horse dewormer. Or,
don't get me wrong. The left wing liberals who are complaining about every single possible thing, I get that too.
Yeah.
I get that too.
Or, Hunter Biden's laptop. It was Russian disinformation, which we learned almost a year later, it was very much credible, and they knew it, and they lied about it. So you can make the argument, which is worse, Fox going after some crazy people, or the leftists suppressing information and wanting to control speech.
Well, I mean, I think they're bad on both sides. I mean, because I also think the right, like, lies. And what do they call it? When someone asks you a question and you just don't answer the question at all, what do they call it?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
It's this misdirection, but like they say, what's his name? Pence is like masterful at it.
Dude, they'll ask a yes or no question and they will not answer yes or no. They'll give it a soliloquy. but Christian, back to the original question. Who do we hate more, the press or the politicians? Seeing that was speaking more about the press, it's the press. Because I expect politicians to be evil. I expect Ted Cruz to blame teachers for when a mass shooting happens at a school.
But the media should be one of the checks and balances.
They should be. In my opinion,
it's the answers are in asking the right questions and giving the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Yeah, and they don't ask the right questions. Like when you're in the White House press briefing and you're asking about Ukraine, and you're only asking about why aren't we starting World War III, or you're the last thing you're asking about is peace, and you're not asking about the genocide that's going on in Yemen that we're funding, by the way, through Saudi Arabia. It's just like, oh, you don't have the best interests of the people either.
That's a good point, because the news reporters.
When you go to the White House press dinner, when you are going to a giant ball party with the people you are supposed to be actively pressing against and checking, we have a problem. So, Christian, who checks the corporate press?
And then they're only the reason why they ask these questions is because they're only going. The questions themselves are polarizing.
Yes,
and it's probably driven by ambition and trying to get a headline. And by simplifying things to a level where they're completely black and white and no gray, you create division.
And they profit out the division.
Exactly.
And
it's crazy. Take a clip, take it out of context, and throw it up on, for the world to see. And it's divisive.
Dude, Jen Psaki was the White House press secretary. And while she was the White House press secretary, she was interviewing for an anchor gig at MSNBC.
Okay.
Now, you don't think that's a conflict of interest? MSNBC is supposed to be covering the president. And you are interviewing the press secretary for a job on your network. So how are you going to cover the president and ask objective questions when you want his mouthpiece on your network, which she signed, by the way? Like, you are supposed to be checking these people, not holding their hands and shaking their dicks after they pee. So okay, fine. They do that too. So then you're supposed to have independent press to check them, to call them on their bullshit, which they do. However, you have a corporate press pressing for censorship to suppress and dismiss those independent voices as misinformation.
Well, how do you feel about? Because
So I hate the press way more than I hate
How do you
politicians.
feel about international news?
So if you
like BBC,
if you want accurate news on U.S. politics, you go to the BBC or like Sky News.
Exactly.
Because there's no skin in the game.
Right.
However, if you want news on British politics, apparently, from what I've heard from British people, BBC is like their CNN. It's just as biased. So yeah, like if you want, another thing with the press, when the invasion of Ukraine happened, they just banned all Russian media, which, okay, how could that possibly go wrong? We as Americans aren't even allowed to know what the Russian perspective is, even though, yes, most of it, if not all of it, is going to be bullshit and propaganda.
Well,
but you still want to know what they're saying.
I have a thought about.
You need to understand how your enemies think.
I have a thought about the propaganda war because a lot of people think propaganda in terms of Russian and American influence that it's all Russian propaganda. Now, I personally think about all the movies you've seen in your life that involve Russians.
Yeah, they're all the same.
All the Russians, they're always thugs, Russian thugs, Bratva,
they got scars.
Russian mafia, or they're spies.
Yeah.
When realistically, there are tons of Russians that are just like everyday Americans, just going to work, middle class or whatever class family, just trying to get by and do, live their life. So I do, again, playing devil's advocate, I think there's a lot of Russian propaganda against Russians, American propaganda. Of course.
Yeah, the Russian
we think of them as like, oh, the Russians.
Well, you know a big reason why we think of them as, oh, the Russians.
Well, the Cold War.
It's the Cold War.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that since died down. But then you got the 2016 election when Hillary Clinton lost and she just made up Russiagate. Just no evidence. Just like, oh, this election was stolen by Russia. He was a Russian. He was a Manchurian candidate. Which to this day, her lawyers have been indicted. Like, I believe one of them was acquitted today, actually. But the Steele dossier was with a Mueller report. The Steele dossier, complete clusterfuck, completely all made up.
Wait, you don't think there was any Russian interference in the election?
Oh, there was 1,000% Russian interference in the election.
I was gonna say there was definitely
they interfered, but I don't believe Donald Trump paid for it or was actively involved.
No, I could get with that
because there's no evidence that he colluded with Russia. Did Russia interfere in the election?
So you're saying it's a different argument, or whether there was collusion.
Well, okay, if I'm Russia, right? If I'm Russia or China or any of our adversaries, what is your goal?
Why Donald Trump?
Not even that. I don't think they care who won. All they wanted was to sow division and have us fighting with each other. Right? Because there was campaigns for Trump and for Hillary. These Russian troll farms, they were pushing for both candidates, which means they didn't care who won. They just wanted the U.S. people, the population, to hate each other, which we do. So they won.
Oh, yeah. I mean, raising any doubt on either side.
Yeah. And they continue to do it. And don't get me wrong, dude, the U.S. definitely interferes in literally every single foreign election there is.
Yeah, I mean,
we staged a coup in 2014 in Ukraine. The U.S. helped them overthrow their government. That happened. Look it up. Crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, the U.S. interferes in plenty of elections, which also goes back to politicians, where they're just pure evil and the scummiest people ever who face no consequences for their actions. So who do I hate more, the press or the politicians? I still say the press. Because the press is supposed to fight back against them, and they make sure so hard to make sure they don't, because it benefits them in their pockets, and they're friends with them. They're in that whole elite circle, like George Carlin said.
I mean, the fact that you can lobby, it's like they created a word instead of saying bribe.
Yeah, they did, and not only that, to make it even better, the Supreme Court ruled that political donations equals free speech. So literally, quite literally,
That's very classes.
money equals speech, which is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Right.
Money is money. Speech is speech. That's like, hey, Christian, pear equals stapler. I mean, they're both nouns, right? So they're just the same thing. They're nowhere near the same thing.
Right. Let's move on to something lighter.
Yeah, let's end on a light note because you got me all mad.
Let's go something light. All right. So, why do people love to
Shrek?
hate
Oh.
astrology?
No. Save that question. Save that question.
Save that one.
I don't want to do that.
I have an opinion on that one.
I do too. But that's
because I think people love astrology.
They
as well.
They do. But that's a question for another day. Sorry, Jazz.
Oh, this is interesting. What would the capital city of Earth be?
That's a great question. I'm glad I came up with it. What would the capital city of Earth be? New York City.
That makes sense.
I think New York City is a good answer.
Well, it's the financial capital of the world, so to speak. So
it is. The global economy is through there. Everyone knows New York City. If I had to go outside the U.S., I'd probably say London. Or London. But I think New York City would be a good capital of the world. Like if we find life on Mars, or Elon goes to another stratosphere and fucks some Earth mutant something, and then their dead kids become alive kids, and we find a new species, I think we would vote, and we would make the capital of Earth New York City. As much as I hate
it seems unfair, but
I know I'm saying that because New York City is like that way, like 50 miles, not even. Like 30 miles.
Not even 10.
10 miles?
Yeah.
No, definitely more than 10 miles. I'm going to say 15 miles.
Let's see.
Give it the old Google Maps try.
To Manhattan.
Get to work. I'm in Times Square.
Because I could get to
15 miles on the dot.
Yeah.
Read it and weep.
There you go.
Yeah. So I'm definitely biased in saying New York, but it is a cultural destination. You'll see people all over the world wearing "I Love New York" shirts. Got the Yankees. Gotta love the Yankees. And the Long Island Mets, as I'm calling them nowadays. I don't know. What other cities, for the sake of argument, what else would you pick? Dallas, Texas.
Nah. Initially, my answer was going to be very American, very patriot answer. I was going to be like Washington, D.C., but it's not. First of all, it's not a city.
It's a district.
Yeah. Just because they call the president the leader of the free world, the American president. However, it still doesn't feel like that would be the answer.
It needs to be a city.
It needs like DC there'd be too much politics involved.
That and DC is too tied into American politics, meaning because like that's where American politics
that's what
resides.
I'm saying. It would like the other leaders would be like, no, but New York, it's New York.
Like it needs to be a place that defines the entire world and all the different cultures in the world.
That's right. If we're speaking about diversity and inclusion.
And for a capital of the world, I think that's important. Like a capital of a country or a state.
And New York City has everything.
New York City has everything.
Everything.
There's 11 million people in and out of the city a day from all different walks of life. And you include New York City as Queens, Manhattan, Bronx, Staten Island, all 5 boroughs.
Yeah, of course.
So part of Long Island. So
Long Island's not a borough, but all right.
It might as well be. But like London doesn't have that. There's diversity in London, but not nearly like you're not going to see many Brazilian people in London.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll find a whole neighborhood of Brazilian people in New York City. Maybe.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Maybe like Rome or somewhere in Italy for a capital of the world because, Rome is one of those ancient cities. It's been around since the beginning of human civilization.
It's hard to say somewhere outside of the U.S. because no other country is a melting pot.
Yeah.
Like the United States.
And I think that is what does it for me. It's culture. Like a capital city of Earth needs to encompass the culture of Earth. And nothing's better than New York City where everyone hates each other, there's constant fighting, and crime is skyrocketing.
all these different kinds of people, different walks of life.
Yeah, and that defines global politics right now. World War III is like this close from happening. So I don't know, man. It's interesting, but I'm gonna go with New York City.
Yeah, me too.
All right, I think that'll wrap it up for us, Christian. It is 8:17 in the evening. I gotta go home. I gotta do laundry, and I have shit to do.
I gotta eat.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode number 24 of the Talkin' with Tarashuk podcast. Dead people, sexy accents, and heart emoji Shrek. My name is Will Tarashuk. T as in Thomas. ARASHUK. If you want to take part in the nonsense with Christian and I, you can be a guest. Just make sure you reach out to me at will@apspodcast.com. It's will at apspodcast.com. We have a giant list of questions. The list of questions will be shared with you for viewing purposes. You can't delete any of our shit. Those are questions that may be answered. Nothing is guaranteed. If you want to ask your own questions, we will include them and guarantee at least 2 of them get asked. So email me, will@apspodcast.com to be a guest on the show. If you are in the Montclair, New Jersey area, we'll do it in person. If you are remote from anywhere across the world, including London, we will bring you in via Zoom and have you in just like all the others. Or if you want to be a guest on the other part of this podcast where I speak to people on a one-to-one basis about anything I find interesting, make me go, ooh, that's fun. So if you own a business, if you're a musician, if you're a podcaster, if you sell cars, reach out to me. I'll be glad to talk to you on a one-on-one basis, or you can do both. That's will@apspodcast.com. All of our other interviews and fun shenanigans are all across social media, all the podcast platforms for the full episodes. Full video is on YouTube, clips on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, as well as TikTok. Our TikTok is ridiculous. It is stupid. I hate it, but you love it, so I do it for you. Thank you. You're welcome. Christian, your plugs, my friend.
All right, this has been the Talking with Tarashuk podcast, an APS podcast hosted and produced by Cube Recording Studios. If you have a podcast, we could do your audio, we could handle your video, we can handle it all, and we can live stream, as Will has said, to every platform out there: LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Vimeo, any other one that I might be forgetting. We can live stream for you. I'm signing off. Christian Wright, Cube Recording Studios. Back to you, Will.
All right. The nonsense has ended. We'll see you all next time, because my name is Will Tarashuk. Talking with Tarashuk is finally over. Go back to your day and watch Shrek. Watch Shrek. I promise you'll love it.